Dear friends, this is OPERPOST channel and I have a holiday gift for you. This is one of the videos that is usually only available on my separate paid subscription channel. This is a New Year Christmas gift to my subscribers. This video is about one of my recent works, a Lego commercial. According to the plot, kids find a toy, which is a Lego, under a Christmas tree. And then they suddenly find themselves in a cartoon where they ride that Lego car. So let's see how this video was done. We started with checking several country houses. According to the plot, our family lives in a country house. Outside the window we should have had a daylight, but at the same time we could shoot only in the evening because we were allowed into the store late after closing. And we could only set up the schedule as follows. We start shooting around 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening inside the house, and then we moved to the store where we were allowed to at around 10-11 p.m. While we were visiting those country houses, I already began selecting the appropriate angles. Initially, we looked at the angle of the room. It was immediately evident that there were windows that could be used for backlight. We could put the light here or put the light in this other window. At the same time, we could place the tree somewhere here or place it somewhere there. In general, we planned to get rid of this sofa. One of the downsides was this huge chandelier that was impossible to remove in any way, but it seemed like we could remove this smaller one. We loved that there was a fireplace. We didn't like the walls, we didn't like the low ceiling. The overall height, let's say, was small. We also looked at the angle in the other direction and didn't really like it either. We also looked back at the parents from the kids' perspective, as we had a particular photo script and one of the frames should have been from children's perspective. Children are sitting on the floor, parents are standing accordingly. And we needed a nice ceiling. This ceiling was not bad, but it was very low, appearing almost immediately behind their heads. Plus, there was some kind of white roll from projector screen, and there was also quite a pretty staircase. So I examined this perspective at an angle of the room to create some volume inside the room. In addition, there was a nice doorway through which we could create some kind of backlight from above. And then we found this house, arrived there and realized that we liked it better. There were huge windows, there was a second level space with a high ceiling, more pleasant furniture, more modern furnishings. We also tried to analyze this angle to look for the best location of our characters. The children should have been located somewhere further away. Here we plan to place a Christmas tree. Children will be close to it looking for toys. Parents were to be located somewhere along the edges of the frame. We took a look at the reverse point. We looked at it, then turned around in the opposite direction, looked at the perspective of the tree here. We thought it was the best to put the sofa here, move it in another way. The dad would be standing on the left, and at the same time we see more windows in the back. So we would be looking not so much at the wall as at the windows, and we have more space and more opportunities for backlight. Then we looked at the close view on children and a reverse angle on the parents. There are some constructions, some more interesting geometry. There is a second level space from the top, and there is an arch behind the parents with some background. So it was quite an interesting angle, and we have chosen exactly that one. From here, we put a slider here on the floor. We might need to make some room to open the door and to be able to make a dolly in. Of course, we wait until it's dark and then we start filming. We will use a 6 kilowatt lamp through that middle window on the right. Like that. There we simply lighten the area with light mat, and here we also use light mat. And then we'll see. We could use a terrace for the rest. Above, we could place sources of backlight. And also there will be chandeliers, but that's for artists to take care of. Let's see if it fits. Is it the standard one? Great. I chose a following light scheme. Since I knew that children would sit in the center of the frame, I wanted to give them some kind of ray of light so that it would outline them and they are highlighted by this beam of light. So I put one device behind the window and it was shining through the central window with a strong beam of light behind which the characters would sit. As to these windows, I planned to lighten up the curtains so that it was just white and nothing was visible behind them. But then the guys suggested to open the curtains and attach markers so that CG artists then drew a landscape with snow falling from the sky. It turned out pretty good. We'll see it a little later. Yeah. Let's check an 18 kilowatt lamp. It seems like the light is lacking. On the outside, 12 lamp light mats were shining through the windows. Yes, along the wall. But if it reaches the sofa, it is going to be good as well. It was assumed that there would be some kind of chandelier hanging in the room that would imitate some kind of warm light. I immediately realized that if the chandelier is hanging in the frame, we lower its brightness as much as possible so that it doesn't spoil the frame. At its typical brightness, it never gives a good light on the characters. So I suggested using a light mat to simulate, if needed, the light from that particular chandelier. Make it half as bright. The view from a lower point is a little more interesting. We need to move a 6 kilowatt lamp a little to the right, close to the tree and its branches. At first, I was considering some higher point for the liner. I even thought that I would put some kind of tower on which the camera would stand a little higher, so that we would not see the edge of the liner. But then I realized that I had a good backlight coming from the windows, and the floor had good reflections if the camera was as close to the floor as possible. That is why I just wanted to lower the camera to the floor. Plus, we had an 18mm lens, which gave a nice wide angle for this whole room. And so we lowered the camera closer to the floor and rode the liner basically on the floor. At the same time, our camera, instead of looking down if it was on top, was looking up. That is why we were able to avoid seeing rails and left the slides just long enough until the rails themselves were already in the frame. I also chose this point so that I had some kind of foreground at the edges. In other words, so that I would go into the room through some kind of foreground and it would open like a gate. Of course, I tried to make them as dark as possible. Alex, take a look at the movements. Could we move the right curtain to the left? The dark one. The dark one to the left. It's not visible in the frame unless it's here. Let's move it here. A little more if possible. Please leave the left one as it was before. We shouldn't move it. Could you please place a 6 kilowatt lamp higher? It is lower than the window, that is why the ray of light is going up. If the source of light behind the windows is below the ceiling, then the beam of light goes straight up. So if we want to imitate the sun, we need to raise it higher so that we have the angle of inclination of the beam in the frame. Like this, yes. It's already lowering, and the beam descends. Initially, I left this light mat off. I wanted something more dark, some kind of silhouette, plus a beam worked for me on children who should sit near the tree. I did not want to highlight our actors too much, the actor and the actress who were playing a mom and dad, because this was a merely 2-3 second frame, and we need to immediately focus the viewer's attention on our character. But unfortunately, the client did not let me do this. He said that we have parents standing in the dark. It is as if we had a night there in the frame and so on in general. They asked me to make more light in this room, and I thought of this option in advance. Therefore, I already had sources of light prepared. We just turned them on without wasting much time. That is why I recommend you to prepare all the devices in advance, but not to turn them on if you are not completely sure which solutions will be chosen, which one is better. The reasons are, in case you are asked to add something. Let's say you know that the client wants brighter, but you want to shoot darker. Mount all the sources of light in advance, which if needed, you would quickly turn on. You won't waste time carrying any devices because it took us 15 minutes to drag this one upstairs. Put a boom in there, plug it into a power outlet, and so on. So if we had set the scene in frames and the client saw a dark frame on the monitor, he said, let's make it brighter, we would have stopped for 15-20 minutes. But since we were prepared, we just turned it on by pressing a button. The client said okay, and we got back to filming. Here is why on TV shows they often refuse to pay overtime to cameramen, guys. This is why I strongly advise those who work on TV series to make it a habit that no one is waiting for you. Because if they are waiting for you, everyone gets the impression that the processing is stretched because of the camera guys. So ensure yourself, prepare all the devices which you may need to turn on, and with this you speed up the process. An hour of processing costs much more. If the producer asks you why the device is standing but not turned on, tell him that if it was not there and he suddenly asked to turn it on, you would spend 30 minutes on it, and then there would be a half an hour of extra processing time. It will add up. All of this is much more expensive than renting a device that was not used. I knew in advance that my beam would be only in one window. The rest of the windows are highlighted only to create a white background behind them. Therefore, I ordered one lens device. It was a 6 kilowatt lamp, if I'm not mistaken, with which I wanted to do everything my own way. So a 6 kilowatt lamp and 2 light mats, which is about the same power but softer. The light mats were lighting the backgrounds, lighting the curtains, while the 6 kilowatt lamp was giving a strong lens light which was going through the smoke inside the room. We saw that 2 out of 3 windows from the side view, and one of them was completely veiled by curtains so that nothing could pass through. One window, however, was face to face with the camera and we could see the night. So we put a large 12 feet frame outside the window and shone into it so that when we look at the window in our frame, there would be a daylight. So basically behind the window there was a frost frame. I added the second frame because on the side of the window there was a gap between the window and the curtain and the lamps were shining through. That's why I put a small frost frame there so that the light is blocked. Alex, please move the light mat to the right so that it's standing against the curtain. Around 2 meters to the right. It seems we need a warm light. Why curtains are open here? Is it the way they are supposed to be? When the light is on and we're zooming in, does it turn off? So it turns on and then off. Alex, we turn the sky panel on and then off in the frame. Turn on and off. Yes, it seems like something has changed for better. Let's make it 10% brighter. Is it lighting the children? Could you turn it away from them, please? There's something wrong with the smoke. Take a look at the wall. Can we turn on the fan? Oh, they're blowing through the beam which lights the smoke. That's the problem. We should not be blowing through the beam. We better be blowing from the face. You see? It's blowing through the beam. We also hid a small astera here behind the corner that was lighting the dad. And I wanted to somehow diversify the foreground initially. This chair was closer and was overlapping a part of the frame, so we were kind of appearing from behind it, which looked pretty cool. But the client asked me to move it away. I myself suggested to place a toy deer there instead, but it reflected the light onto the side right here, which I later darkened during color correction, because I love it when the camera appears and drives through some dark object standing in the foreground. Also, when the children picked up a toy according to the plot, it was written that some kind of glow was supposed to be directed at them, as if the headlights of the car were lit. They pick up a toy and such a magical light shines upon them. That is a New Year time, magic is all around. For this, we put a sky panel S30 under the tree, hiding it behind boxes, and controlled it from the phone. We turned the light on the moment when kids pick up the toy. So there was a warm light imitating the headlights of a car. The children were sitting in such a way that the edge of the beam touched the shoulder and it was outlining their silhouettes. Plus, due to the fact that there was a smoke behind, they were more highlighted. So we're here. We'll steal some of that light for the backgrounds. Do we have a 28 glow box by chance? Closer to the tree, to me. Then we moved closer to the children with our slider. The light scheme here remained unchanged. The beam was directed at the girl. Stand here. We will be moving backwards, so you probably won't have to move, but you will need to make this movement. Are kids ready? Silence. Get ready. Let's go. Also, instead of the sky panel S30 that was lying on the floor, we put a astera with a warm light right inside the tree that imitated the light from the tree decorations and lights. In addition, it provided an extra key light from the side to the characters. We continued using the window as backlight, and I also put one Astera behind to provide an extra backlight to the hair and the boy's face. Another Astera was located above the camera in order to deal with a shadowed part of the face. I tried reflecting it first, but it did not work good, and some beams seemed to be crossing. That is why I asked to place Astera above the camera so that the light would be coming from above rather than from a reflected beam from the side, and we would avoid crossed beams and double glares in the eyes. As a result, we have this frame where we have all this CG outside the windows. Basically, there was just a white frame, the guys hung markers on the windows, then they cut out these wooden windows, and these wooden railings are also CG. So the window was cut out, the background was added during post-production, and if we press play, we will even see a snow falling. This fake lamp is attached to a C-stand. The light it is supposed to be emitting is in fact emitted by light mat. It is giving a backlight there to the dad and a key light to the mom. Astera that is hidden on the left provides the key light to the dad. A 12-lamp light mat is shining into this window and the backlight is coming from the same window. A little bit of warm light from the tree is directed at the mom. There is a 6 kilowatt lamp behind the window that provides this beam, provides a backlight for the kids. Another 12-lamp light mat is standing behind the other window and is lighting the 12-feet frost frame, which is basically a background. It also illuminates the curtains, provides some extra beams, reflections on the floor, as if from the light from the above. And also here behind the presents lays a sky panel S30 that illuminates children's faces as they find their new toy. Then, when we moved closer to the children, on the right side there was a warm Astera. A cold Astera is above the camera and provides more filling in the shadow side to help it match better with the previous frame. One Astera stands vertically and provides the backlight, and the light coming from the windows remained the same. Then we went to Lego stores where we had to make several shots. We also visited a few stores, and we were in this one first, but it seemed to us too cramped because there were only 2 walls with shelves. This wall that is closest to the camera is basically the entrance, the glass wall behind which the other stores are located. We were filming in the night, so the lights were turned off and it was impossible to shoot there. And another entrance was around the corner, and these were the only 2 walls that formed some kind of corner. I prefer having corners in my frames for a better sense of space. This zone where the counter is seemed not good enough. On the opposite side, where there was a glass wall, we could not really unify it with the second wall. I tried looking for a better perspective, shooting with my phone, trying to obtain a defocus in the front. But then again, we could not film this wall as it would be completely dark behind it. We tried this angle. It could have been workable, but the problem was that the rest of the frames were still focused on the same corner, so all the frames would look too similar with one single straight wall behind the character. Then we moved to another store, and of course we liked it right away because there were many corners, there was overall a large space. We could shoot in any direction, at different angles. Here's the opposite side view. And again, we see the corner and the wall here, another wall and a corner here. So quite an interesting space with a good geometry. A lot more room, a lot more toys. That is why we chose that store. Alex, this is the angle. We see the corner. Illuminate the shelves. The upper? Yes, and also on the left, in a corner. I decided to partially turn off the lights in the store because these spotlight lamps that hung on the top were illuminating particular parts of the backgrounds too much, and there was way too much glare and we could not reduce their brightness. There were spotlights directed at the yellow floor. Their light was reflected from the floor with yellow light, and as a result, everything was filled with intense yellow. We can see here that the white box in fact seems yellow. Attach a stereo to the rail, but do not hang it low, otherwise it will be visible in the frame. Closer to the edge? Yes, to this side where the boxes are. This is why I decided to turn off all the light around that was shining on the floors and on the backgrounds and hang cold asteras on these rails and give some kind of soft, cold light just to fill these backgrounds and illuminate the shelves with toys. Make them cold, 5600. The bricks on the ceiling with those circular lamps seemed very interesting to me. If they appeared in the frame, we tried leaving them on. However, we were turning off those that were above our actors and giving that yellow light. This is quite a typical story that happens when we shoot in a store. We have a huge ceiling with local lamps, and of course, the ceiling somewhere in the distance is always in the frame, and where it is in the frame, we'll leave the local light on. Of course, only if this light is not disgusting. Usually, those are some kind of long astero-like lamps. We always leave them in a frame. And those that are above our characters, we either cover them with some large frames, floppies, or set up our own lighting. Yes, I think 5600 or 6500, either of these. Here's the spot. We need a floppy to cover this area. We cannot dim those lights, or if we turn them off, all the lights will go off. We need to dim all three of them. You see, there's too much yellow. I would dim all three. We need a key light from here, and here we put a 12-feet frame or a black 8-feet one, and here we put a frost on a T-bone, and the backlight from there, from the left, a vertical light mat, and I think a stereo here, although I can see some cold light coming from here. Perhaps we could use it instead. Please move it closer to me. Be careful with the background. We might need a floppy there. Let it shine onto the entire area. This thing is glaring. Either we press it like this or remove it. And the same with the second row, at least these two in particular. We need someone with a longer arm. Alex. Oh, great. Guys, let me know if the actors are ready. In almost every frame we had pretty much the same light scheme. We were darkening one side with a black cloth. On the other side we used an 8 feet frost frame, which was illuminated by a sky panel S60. This frost frame was providing a key light to our character's face. I also put light mats on C-stands. These were 2L light mats working as side, backlight, and I also hanged one Astera above to illuminate the hair. Let's move the light mat here. And a second light mat was standing on the other side. A little more, like this. To the right. Higher. A little to the left. Further away. We need to remove that Astera in the background. Remove this Astera. And we need to place something on the outside, something like sky panel S30. Do we set the color temperature to 6500? We need to add sky panel on the left. Asteras are brighter. We used the same light scheme with the dad character. There was a sky panel S60 into a 12 feet frost frame. There was a light mat standing vertically behind the corner providing a backlight on the right. There was a second light mat on the left providing a backlight on the cheek. There was also an Astera providing a backlight, a sky panel S30 on the left for the background. A couple of Asteras are there for these backgrounds. And here was a 12 feet black cloth serving as a border to the light and creating extra shadows to the shaded part of the face. Rotate it slowly and I will tell you when to stop. Here is our light scheme. Sky panel S30 for the backgrounds. One Astera above the actor illuminating his hair with some backlight. A 2L light mat illuminating the actor on the right side with a backlight. We can see it here on the nose and the face. Another vertically aligned 2L light mat on the left provides a backlight on the cheek. On the right, there is a large 8 feet frost frame with sky panel S60 for key light. And on the left, there is an 8 feet black frame providing shadows on the face. In this scene, a large 8 feet frost frame is directed at the actress. It also provides very good reflections here on the toy. This side of the car is illuminated by this frame. One Astera is working in the background, another Astera is in the background's other side, a third Astera is above the actress providing a backlight for her and the boy. In addition, a 2L light mat is on the right for the backlight. We could see it on the wheels and on the boy's hands. It also provides a key light on the boy's face and serves as a backlight for the actress in the background. An 8 feet frost frame creates a backlight here on the left. The frame itself is further than the boy, and this is why the side of his face is not illuminated. If it was closer to the camera, the boy would have been completely illuminated. That is why we aim camera here. The boy is standing here, and the frame is located behind him and works from behind. But because it's quite large, the light still reaches here, yet leaves some parts of the face shaded. There was also a second light mat providing a backlight. That is it, my friends. I hope this review was useful. If you like this kind of POV reviews, please subscribe to my channel. I was glad to see you. Happy New Year. See you soon. Bye.